Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Morris Merriweather, the author of Enough is Enough. Public education has spiraled out of control. I am also the host of Straight Talk in Room 503. I come to you each week talking to you about the failure of public education, what we can do about it, the reason, how do we get there. So, ladies and gentlemen, this week, I'm so glad that you're joining me again. Today, we want to talk about two things. We want to talk about the voucher system, and then we're going to conclude in talking about how the prioritizers behind the voucher system and the good old boys and the good old girls are trying to target it, the push to put vouchers into the system, not only in my hometown, but across this great nation of ours, that vouchers and prioritizing schools, charter schools, private schools, homeschooling, it's on the push. Everything is to do away with public education as we know it. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have to remember who brought us to the dance. Who brought us to the dance was public education. 25 years ago, there was not charter schools and private schools. Most of us are byproducts of public education. So when did public education get so bad that we need to do away with it in its entirety and allow those students, which would be certain students, both African Americans, Caucasian, Mexican, what have you, but certain students will benefit from having private schools and charter schools, and public school as we know it would gradually get to the point where no one would want to fund it and it will continue to crumble. But we just got to remember who brought us to the dance. Who brought us to the dance was public education. So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get underway and talk about the voucher system. As I said in the previous video session, that voucher system was not created by components of public education. It was created by people who wanted to do away with public education. Why do they want to do away with public education? Because prioritizers and those people who are pushing the voucher program, they are big lobbyists, out-of-state special interest group that want to make money on the backs of public education. They're not concerned about every child receiving a quality education. They're concerned about, number one, their child is already in private school. Now what they want to do is they want to make money so that they can keep their child continue to receive public funds and finance their private school for their children. So we need to remember constantly over and over again who brought us to the dance. Public education brought us to the dance. So let me look at some things. Let's talk about who is the sponsor of the voucher system. It's none other than Representative Bill Dunn. He is a Republican state legislator from Knoxville, Tennessee. He is the one behind it in our state. Your state also has someone who's sponsoring the voucher system in your hometown. If you don't believe it, Google voucher in your home state, and you will see that there's a push in your home state to also do with public education. So I don't want anyone to ever think that each week that Professor Merriweather come to you to talk to you about Madison County, Jackson, Tennessee, because what's happening in my hometown is also happening in your hometown. Only reason you may not know about it because you're not researching and keeping up with it. But ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dunn, or Representative Dunn, he was the one who made it possible for them to vote on the voucher system because he's the sponsor. But ladies and gentlemen, I have to take my hat off to the Tennessee Education Association. Prior to me retiring, I was a member as well as TEA, and I still hold a lifetime membership in TEA and the National Education Association, even though I'm retired. I support them. My hat's off to them. 3 consecutive years they have beat the lobbyists who was pushing for voucher in our school system. And they continue to need our help. If you know of anyone that a member of Tennessee Education Association, call them and let them know that you support them and you're behind them. Even in my hometown, the Governor Hassel, the governor of the state of Tennessee, has also had his ears bent by special interests, and he is supporting the voucher system as well. Ladies and gentlemen, when our legislators and our representatives, our governors, get behind an effort to hold down certain students from receiving a good education, then something is drastically wrong. But I have to say that it looks like this will be the fourth time the TEA has beat the special interest groups. Ladies and gentlemen, what that says when people say my vote doesn't matter, no need of me going to the poll, they're going to do what they want to. They are actually going to do what they want to do if you don't go. But as long as we go to the poll and elect those people who are for all students receiving a quality education, we can beat them at their own game. So don't stay at home this year. This is a critical year. 2016 is a critical year. We have a presidential election. We have primaries where we're going to be electing school board members, state legislators, governors, senators, everything. Do not stay at home. Make a point to get out. It's your God-given right to vote, and you need to vote. If you don't vote, someone will vote against you. So you really need to go. So when we look at these voucher system, what the voucher system, this probably would be the best way for me to help you to understand the voucher system. The voucher system, which the sponsors is Representative Dunn, is a clause that is in that bill that vouchers will be for all low-income students in any district with a single school in the bottom 5%. All it takes is for a school to have a bad year and drop into the 5% list. Then those students will be eligible to go and get a voucher and go to private school or charter schools. Now, as you well know, those charter schools are, as a whole, certain interest group. They do not have the same regulations and guidelines and standards that public education can have. They are free to do whatever they think will work. Ladies and gentlemen, most of the charter schools and those private schools are for profit. So therefore, public education is not for profit. Anybody can attend public education. And we did because so many did. So now there are people in both the white community and the black community that doesn't remember that public schools was attended by all people. There was no other school to go to but public school. We allowed public education to deteriorate. And then we had a few people who said that we can make money by simply making sure that when those schools drop into 5% ratio, that those low-income students are eligible to go to private schools. Ladies and gentlemen, to go to private schools, there's no transportation in terms of public vans to get there. Parents get them there the best way they can. Why don't we tell those parents who we're trying to get them into those schools, those special interest groups, that is, why don't we tell them they have to get there the best way they can? Public education has offered some of the greatest education of our time. Our leading doctors, lawyers, judges, you name it, came from public education. I will admit to you that it has deteriorated, but it only deteriorated because we allowed it to, and we had some good old boys and bad girls who was allowing it to get to that point. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have to do better than that. But anyway, they're trying to destroy public education, and we need to continue to fight to make sure that public education stays strong, because there are always going to be some students who cannot afford to go to private school, and who public education will be the key to their success in their education. So what we need to do is we need to keep public education strong. We need to make sure we improve it. We make sure the funding source, the state legislators and the Republican in general are trying to lessen the amount of funds going into public education. So, ladies and gentlemen, we need to make sure that we tell our state legislators we are not for prioritizing our public school system. We are not for prioritizing and allowing them to have a voucher system. We need to continue to build on public education, fund it correctly, make sure we get the best teachers, make sure that all students are on target, and that we make sure we get the best education for them. That's what we need to be doing. Now, ladies and gentlemen, in the final session of this classroom today, we're going to end up talking about how the good old boys and the good old girls, what they're doing to target it, TEA, because they are winning against them, and to show you how important it is to understand this push to do away with public education as we know it. So stay tuned with me. We'll be right back in just a few minutes right following this break. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the final session of Straight Talking Room 503. We want to conclude by talking about what the good old boys and the good old girls are trying to do to stop public education. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a push now. TEA is Tennessee Education Association, was the largest organizations that support public education. This Tennessee education is now under attack. The good old boys and the people who want to get the voucher system in, they are now trying to impact them by lessening the number of people in their membership. How would they do that? Ladies and gentlemen, one of the things that was occurring when I was there and others who have retired, and still, you paid your dues each year by payroll deduction. And so what they're doing, they're targeting and trying to prevent this organization members from paying their membership by payroll deduction, which means that a lot of the members, because it's so easy with Easy Pay, that they'll not want to pay by other means, and hopefully the membership will dwindle. Let me read this to you because I want you to get the full impact. Most members pay their dues through payroll deduction, a convenience offered by the school system for decades. 2 bills has been introduced this year to eliminate educators' abilities to pay association dues through payroll deduction, and this would hurt the association in the process. The private voucher fight consumed the first week of the legislative session this year, with both sides going all in to influence legislators. Fortunately for students in our public education system, outside TEA prevailed. So they're trying to discourage teachers from doing it. My question would be, if you have a better plan and a better program to educate these students who are in the lower 5%, why would you have to resort to trying to hurt people, lessen the people who are getting into the organization? You just do your thing and don't worry about what's going on over here. But they're looking at it differently, ladies and gentlemen. They know that if they can lessen the number of members in the TEA who will be fighting for public education, it gives them a better chance to come up with the voucher system. The voucher system, ladies and gentlemen, is a bad thing. It is bad. It is not going to help all students. It is only going to feather the pockets of those who have already made it over, who are well-to-do, big lobbyists, living in their big homes, banking money for their children. They could care less about the low-income student. Ladies and gentlemen, I do not want you to get it wrong. We're not talking about African Americans by themselves. We're talking about low-income students. In this low-income bracket are African Americans, whites, Mexicans, Latinos. It's made up of a lot of people who everybody is not well-to-do. Everybody's not in the middle class. Ladies and gentlemen, it is imperative that you understand this and join the fight as we work to improve public education. It does not make sense that each week I come to you and talk to you about public education and that you don't join the bandwagon to make sure that public education continue to flourish. While most of you who are hearing this telecast, your education was public education, it wasn't private school. Some of you have been blessed to be able to go to private school, and I commend you for that. But at the same time, we need to make sure that public school and public education is there for the centuries and centuries to come, that our children can get the same education, go on and make America great like it is now. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you joining me this week. I've been your host, Morris Merriweather, Straight Talk in Room 503. If you've not had an opportunity to get a copy of my book, please go to www.morrismerriweather.com and get a copy there. Or you can contact me and I'll make sure that you get a copy there. So if you don't mind, and I know you don't, join me again next week as we further discuss public education. And ladies and gentlemen, don't forget who brought you to the dance. Thank you very much, and we'll see you again next week.